Uh, hey everybody, welcome to End Times Talk. I accidentally said the state that the letter was from, and I'm gonna ask that nobody say that state because I am all about protecting the people that give me information. That's why I quickly ended the live and deleted all the videos on all platforms because I'm all about protecting people that share information with me. And I didn't say the place, but I slipped and said the state, and so I gotta be careful. So, anyways, back to what I was saying, and I'm gonna have to start from square one here. Okay, so everybody joining is gonna get right straight from the get go what we are talking about. But it's this letter that was sent out from the United States Postal Service, which is a federal entity. This is the U.S. government that runs the United States Postal Service. This isn't statewide. This is the Fed. All right, and they have sent this out January 5th, 2026, and that's 4 days ago. There is information that I'm going to share with you after I read this letter that's very crucial, that confirms that this letter is real and that it's being given out in multiple locations. I can't tell you what city, what state, or anything like that, or there's areas that might be or might not be getting it. I do know of a certain person that hasn't seen this yet, but it might not be that because this was given out 4 days ago, and the person that I know that confirmed this to me, it was given to them 2 days ago. So not everybody's getting this letter at the same time. Okay, but it is going around. All right. And I do have people on the lookout for me to see, what happens in their neck of the woods. Okay. But we're going to read this here. January 5th, 2026. Officers. Subject: Postal Service employees continue to provide essential services. Background: Part 1. During large scale emergencies, epidemics, hurricanes, civil unrest, etc. Interesting, they put the epidemics in the beginning part. States and localities may issue curfew orders or other directives restricting travel and other commercial and personal activities. Many of these orders will explicitly exempt providers of essential services, but some do not. Even if a state or local action does not contain such an exemption, the Postal Service's operations are governed by federal law. Therefore, we continue to fulfill our public service mission by accepting and delivering mail and packages in accordance with federal law. Although postal employees are essential workers that may be exempt from state and local directives, which means the government's doing something, telling everybody to do something, any decision by the Postal Service to continue operations during an emergency must ensure operations can be conducted in a manner that protects the safety of our employees and the public. The Postal Service will continue working closely with federal, state, and local authorities to ensure that we are safely carrying out our mission during emergencies. Part 2. Employees and contractors should carry the essential services letter with them as they perform duties for the Postal Service and travel to and from work. All right, here's these paragraphs. Because state and local government restrictions do not apply to prevent Postal Service employees from reporting to and performing their work, all employees and contractors must be provided with a copy of the essential services letter attached to this memorandum in an effort to assist employees who may be stopped and questioned by local law enforcement about their activities. Listen, here's the Freudian slip: as a result of a state or local legal directive restricting commercial or personal activities. That's a lockdown. All right. The Postal Service is providing employees with this letter explaining the essential nature of Postal Service employees and contractors. This letter, in addition to the employees or contractors' postal identification badge, should resolve any questions raised by state or local law enforcement officials. It is critical that all employees and contractors carry the postal ID badge with them at all times. That means that something's brewing and they want to make sure their people are ready for when the call is made. If encountered or stopped by state or local law enforcement officials enforcing travel restrictions, the postal employee or contractor should identify themselves as a Postal Service employee, show the official their postal issued ID badge, and provide a copy of the letter with this information to the official. The state or local official should allow employees and contractors to continue their travel or work. However, if the employees and contractors run into any issues, they should contact their supervisor or manager. Says questions regarding this process should be elevated to your area, So this is more than one area or headquarters law office. So this is going out wider. Now let me make this clear, okay, in talking about this. All right. that this letter was sent out on January 5th, 4 days ago. The person that I had emailed me received their letter 2 days ago. So they're not all going out at the same time. All right. So I'm going to read this email to you, and I'm going to keep certain bits of information private to protect their identity. But I was sent this email yesterday. Dear brother Josh, and this was before midnight, so it's technically, it was sent out on the 8th, okay, just before midnight. So, dear brother Josh, my husband has worked for the United States Postal Service for almost this many years. He was a carrier for this many years, and last almost this many years has worked at a main, we'll say a main metro facility in a state, all right, well, a main hub, okay, doing a certain job, all right. I can't say the job because that'll give away who he is. It says, anyway, last night when he went to his shift, they gave him that letter to keep in his truck at all times. The last letter he got like that was during the COVID-19 lockdown in March 2020. So the last time this man received a letter like this was during the lockdown. She says, he just woke up an hour ago to head to work and told me about it. And I immediately thought of you and told him I had to let you know. But you are really good at what you do, and you knew this was coming. So that's part of the email I was sent, because the other part doesn't pertain to the subject. But what I'm going to ask is if you are a federal employee, or if you are a nurse, or if you are a doctor, or if you work at a nursing home, or if you work at a health department, I would like you to contact me at End Times Talk, all one word, all lowercase, End Times Talk 777, three numbers, 777, End Times Talk 777 at gmail.com. That's End Times Talk 777 at gmail.com. I'll keep your identity private. I'll delete the email after I read it off, or whatever you want me to do with it, or if you just want to share the information with me. But we need to kind of come together to figure out what's going on. All right. Because obviously the federal government knows something that's happening that we don't. And with the sickness, the super flu that's exploding, all right, it's very indicative of, like we were talking about just a moment ago, the SPARS pandemic 2025 to 2028. And for those that are just joining us, okay, and for those that don't watch this channel often, we're just going to give a brief summary of this here. You can read this document all on your own. Look up the PDF on Google. Very easy to download. All right. I got mine quite a while ago. I don't know how much they've changed it, because sometimes they do that. But the whole idea is that there's this thing called the St. Paul acute respiratory syndrome. There's a group of Christians that are anti-jabby that go to Asia and bring back an acute respiratory syndrome. So they dub it the St. Paul acute respiratory syndrome. It's funny, that's in the Twin Cities there in Minnesota, and look what's happening in Minnesota anyways. These gatherings where they're rioting and stuff, and where they're protesting, those are gatherings too. And that's what most people don't remember or anything like that. Okay, is that they're spreading it too when they go out and they do those sort of things. Okay, anyways, so this is about the fall of 2025. Okay, and it says in mid-October, okay, 3 deaths were reported among members of a First Baptist Church of St. Paul, Minnesota. All right, so that's how the scenario starts. And then right here, basically, and I'm going to just read it real quick because I think it's important. This is the bottom paragraph to the right. It says, as transmission of SPARS was determined to occur via droplet spread, the CDC initially recommended that everyone diligently maintain hand hygiene and frequently disinfect potentially contaminated surfaces. I have noticed at Walmart, they're disinfecting carts now. And they weren't doing that last year. They weren't doing that the year before. They were doing that during the pandemic. But I noticed they literally hired someone that is like literally disinfecting the handlebars of the carts at Walmart the last time I was there. Okay. So it's like they know, like the higher ups know something and they're trickling information down to start to get people to fall in line, but they're holding back because they don't want a huge uprising or civil unrest. Okay, now here's the thing. I'm going to keep reading here. It says that they maintain hand hygiene, frequently disinfect potentially contaminated surfaces. CDC officials further urged anyone with severe flu-like symptoms, to seek immediate medical attention. Public health officials were concerned that the upcoming Thanksgiving holiday and Black Friday shopping activities would facilitate the spread of St. Paul acute respiratory syndrome, but they remained confident that the awareness and prevention messages disseminated annually, so the normal rigmarole that they put out every year for the seasonal influenza, combined with isolation procedures for suspected cases, would be effective at countering the spread of SPARS. Now, if I'm not talking about the method of delivery, I'm talking about how people get sick. All right, it's about the end game, but they knew something was happening and did little about it to inform the public. And that is something I've noticed during this scenario that's been unfolding before us with H3N2 subclade K, aka the K flu, or aka the super flu. Okay, is that they have played this thing down, but it's exploding. And I'll show you in a moment different news articles where it shows that it's exploding. All right, but then later on, if we go into the document more, I'm just going to read it. It says, over the Thanksgiving holiday and Black Friday, however, hold on, I have to go back because there's a sentence, missing here. Fortunately, some of who thought they had the flu chose to isolate themselves at home, thereby preventing the spread of SPARS outside their households over the Thanksgiving holiday and Black Friday. However, fewer infected persons remained home, thereby enabling the spread of SPARS beyond the Midwest. Second, SPARS transmission was accelerated by infections in individuals who had not yet become symptomatic. All right, together those factors led to significant spikes in the number of reported cases. By mid-December, SPARS cases were reported in 26 states, and the ministries of health in Mexico, Canada, Brazil, Japan, and several European countries had notified the World Health Organization of dozens of imported cases. Now, that's happening. Not to mention Thailand and China and all this stuff, where they're and even France just called an epidemic, has just declared an epidemic. I think there's like 5 countries that have already declared an epidemic on this thing that they're not telling the public. All right, but listen to the sentence here. Okay, it says there was widespread concern in public health circles that travel over the Christmas and New Year's holidays would spark a global pandemic. And here we are about 2.5 weeks later from Christmas, and I keep hearing over and over again how people are sick all over the place. Okay, how they can't get better. They've been sick for 2 weeks. They feel like they're dying. Their lungs are, I got a buddy, he says that he's felt like he's lost like 30% of his lung function. I have friends that have gotten sick and they literally have stated that they're getting a little bit better, and then I talk to them a day or two later and they're worse than what they were before. It's like this thing bounces back and forth and yo-yos up and down, but the reality is something is brewing. And now I don't care whether it's frequency, towers, fog, or trails in the sky. I don't care how they're delivering this thing, all right, or whether it's even terrorism, but something is happening. Something is happening, and it's not about the method of delivery. It's about the end game and where they're going with it. And they have this agenda 2030 mapped out pretty well, and they have told us by the year 2030, all right, that they're going to have basically a dystopian future. And I'm sorry, but the SPARS pandemic scenario ends in 2028. That's by the year 2030, or by the year 2030. I think this thing fits together pretty well if they're following through with it. The same people, okay, that gave you the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security, and also worked with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, all right, and also the World Economic Forum brought you Event 201. This was supposed to be the scenario that they came out with before the COVID-19 lockdown. All right. And so, like I said, Johns Hopkins, World Economic Forum, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. The same people have done this one. They did this one. This one was fulfilled. This one, however, 2025 to 2028, they're telling you the years they're going to do it. And here we are, and we're getting letters from the federal government to federal employees, to federal entities and federal employees, warning them to have this letter on them to make sure that they know that they're an essential employee. And then I'm getting emails that's telling me that people that are connected to the USPS are receiving this letter all over the place. It's not at the same time, though. This was released on January 5th, 2026, and the person that I talked to got their letter 2 days ago. So there's literally a 3-day pause between this person's letter and the person that emailed me their letter. Now, again, like I was saying, if you if you are a federal worker of any kind, or if you're work for the health department or a hospital or a nurse or doctor, or you work at a nursing home or anything like that, and you're seeing anything that confirms what's going on here, please email me at endtimestalk777@gmail.com. That's endtimestalk, all lowercase, 777, 3 numbers. All right, endtimestalk777@gmail.com. And so that way, I'll keep your identity a secret. I'll keep your location a secret, but we'll just share the information out so that way people are aware. Or if you don't want me to share the information and you just want me to know and you want to talk to me and share it with me, I'm more than happy to keep things off the record. But I found it important to share this, okay? So that way people are aware that this is a real thing that's happening. This isn't some made up mumbo jumbo. All right. This is absolutely a pretty serious situation. Now, all right, I'm going to go to this and just kind of show you. Give me a moment here. I got to go back. But all across the board, they're saying this thing's bad. When before they weren't. Like, I remember when this thing first started, I was kind of like, could this be? Could this be? And then it was just being played down. Oh, there's no threat. This is fine. This is normal. And then all of a sudden, Ohio's bad flu season to get worse as super flu spread, state warns. All right. Then it says super flu variant spreads as flu cases surge across New York. Already severe flu season is overwhelming hospitals and ERs. It was doing the same thing in China. Now it's really bad in China. All right, so they're saying Florida is seeing a rise in super flu cases. Super flu spikes Idaho hospital visits, 3 and out-of-county deaths related to the flu. All right, Arizona flu cases surge amid super flu variant spread nationwide. All right, so, I mean, over and over and over again, all right, they're telling you that this thing is spreading. 30 states are CDC's worst tier for the flu as super flu variant spreads. Okay, so they're telling you what they're doing. And before, they were withholding information. Right here, I mean, it says here, flu is surging nationwide, and doctors say we're nowhere near the peak. Nowhere near the peak. Nowhere near. That means a far ways off. And they're already pushing out letters to federal employees talking about essential workers. I mean, come on, you know? And so I'm not trying to parrot what I talked about yesterday, but I had some new information to add to it, and I thought it'd be important to confirm what I was talking about yesterday. And if I get any emails or any contacts, that are talking about that they're seeing similar things, or that there's other federal employees or postal workers that are getting this. Okay, but here's the big thing, or that anybody's getting this, get a hold of me. All right, I'll let you know. But the big thing is that the person that contacted me about this letter, and the letter I got before the person contacted me, this is 2 bits of confirmation in one. Okay, and they told me that their family member that's a worker at a USPS major metro facility, okay, has not gotten anything like this since March 2020. Has not gotten anything like this since March 2020. And I've been warning of this for the past basically 3 years. And I've been warning that there's a destabilization coming. While everybody else is being fed lies and hopium, I've been trying to get God's people ready to get to the finish line. Because there is a finish line coming. Jesus is coming for his people, but it's not going to be peaches and cream. It's going to get a little rough. But if we stick together and we seek God's face together and we focus on Jesus and we don't fear the things that are coming upon the earth, all right, because it says men's hearts will fail them for fear of what's coming upon the earth. As long as we can stick together, we're going to be okay and we're going to get to the finish line together. All right. So you don't need to worry about what's going on. You just need to prepare for what's going on. All right. And I'm going to try to say this in a certain way here, and I'm going to spell something out for you. And I want you to get ready to write something down. I'll give you a moment to get some paper or whatever, or even if you want to rewind this, okay, you can do that. All right. So I hope you either got your phone ready to text this to yourself or whatever. Get ready to put down some information. All right. I'm going to try to give this to you, shoot this to you straight. And I'm going to break this up into 2 segments. So I'm going to say the first few letters. I'm going to pause and say a couple of things, and then I'll give you the rest of the word. The first letters are O, S, C, I, L, L, O, C, O. All right, and then I'm going to break it up, and I'm going to say a few things to be able to, work things around AI. The AI gatekeepers of YouTube. And here's the rest of it: C, C, I, N, U, M. Now I'm going to tell you, do that. Okay, do that. Do yourself a favor and do that. All right, and I hope you wrote that down. All right, and I hope you put that all together because that's one thing. And then I'm going to say D, 3, okay? And I'm going to say C, and then I'm going to say Z, a 4-letter word, starts with Z, and I'm sure you can figure that out, all right? And do that. Do yourself a favor and do that, okay? So my point is, there are things that you can do. There's also stuff that's like, silver. Okay. And then we got to break things up and put a bunch of words in here and blah, 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 and say colloidal. All right. Reverse that, put them together, and then do that. Do yourself a favor and do that. And I prefer, nasally. Get it in your lungs, all that stuff. So I hope people are taking what I just said, wrote it all down because it matters. And I care about people, so I'm willing to take that risk and put it out there, put that information out there for people to do, to stand up for themselves and to be ready for what could be about to happen. Now, I'll be honest with you. I would rather have egg on my face and be completely wrong and look like a fool eventually than be right about this. But because they wrote this out and told us what they're going to do to us, and now federal employees are being sent this letter about being an essential worker and being told basically that just putting out the sentence here, and this is part 2 at the first paragraph, kind of mid-paragraph. In an effort to assist employees who may be stopped and questioned by local law enforcement about their activities as a result of a state or local legal directive restricting commercial or personal activities. That's a lockdown. That's absolutely a lockdown. And because the federal government doesn't have power over each state, it has to be each state that makes the call. And I can tell you what states are going to make that call first. It'll be California and New York. Watch them and watch them close. All right? Watch them close. It's a 4-letter word that starts with Z, radio face. It's a 4-letter word. And it ends with C. All right? So, and I can't say it because I'll get in trouble. But I'm trying to push the boundaries here to try to give people information to help themselves with what's approaching. I don't know how they're doing it. I don't know if it's, like I said, I don't know if it's fog, chemtrails, whatever, frequencies, whatever. Okay, something is happening. I don't believe it's about the method of delivery. I believe that it's about whatever's going on in the end game that will be the result of it. And the end game is Agenda 2030. All right. Yes, radio face voiceover, yes. So my point is that Agenda 2030 is, and I mean, like, there's things I could show you. Hold on here, give me a moment here. Man, there's so many things I could show you here. But I want to say this real quick too before I forget that H3N2 is a form of bird flu. All right, is a form of bird flu. And I remember when Robert Redfield got up and he was all over the place saying he thinks the next big one is bird flu. In fact, I have a little snippet here, 48 seconds. Watch this.
I'm obviously most worried about bird flu. Right now, it takes 5 amino acid change for it to be effectively infecting humans. That's a pretty heavy species barrier, but this virus is already now in 26 mammal species, as you saw most recently, cattle. But in the laboratory, I could make it highly infectious for humans in months because it's been published.
Months. Just months. That's all it takes. And they've been doing this in China. Give me a moment here. I'll try to see what I can find here. Just give me a moment. I'll try to show you what's going on in China here while we're live. And if you have not, hold on one second. Let me, I'm just going to give you the most recent one here. Now, if you have not subscribed to Decoding China, you absolutely should. Okay. But here is a snippet from their show. Hold on one second. Here's a snippet from their show about what's going on in China with this sickness. And again, before you even watch this, you need to know that that China is always about a month or two ahead of us with this sickness stuff. And it was the same way last pandemic. That was the same thing. All right, check this video out.
Urgent. An epidemic sweeps across China. Mass deaths without distinction between young and old. Hospitals overwhelmed, funeral homes packed, and a rising number of sudden deaths among both the elderly and the young. China is facing a new and troubling wave of disease, one that is spreading largely beneath the surface as official information remains vague and fragmented. A new wave of disease is quietly but steadily sweeping across multiple regions of China, placing severe strain on hospitals, funeral services, and local communities. Reports emerging from social media, funeral industry workers, and ordinary citizens point to a pattern that is increasingly difficult to ignore: rising mortality among the elderly, a noticeable increase in sudden deaths among younger people, and a widening gap between official narratives and lived reality. Across many cities, hospitals have been operating under prolonged overload. Community clinics are crowded, inpatient beds are scarce, and medical staff face sustained pressure. At the same time, funeral homes in several provinces have once again become overwhelmed, with long queues of families waiting to handle burial and cremation arrangements. In some cities, traffic jams have formed outside funeral facilities, while elsewhere, authorities have accelerated the construction or expansion of funeral homes, an unusual move that signals sharply rising demand. Hospitals overwhelmed, funeral homes packed, and a rising number of sudden deaths among both the elderly and the young. China is facing a new and troubling wave of disease, one that is spreading largely beneath the surface as official information remains vague and fragmented. A new wave of disease is quietly but steadily sweeping across multiple regions of China, placing...
I want to say this, that it's been vague in America up until it's not vague anymore. You know, they're not telling us much. The CDC's not telling us much. We're going through the same mumbo jumbo that China's going through, just theirs is way ahead of us. All right? Theirs is way ahead of us.
Severe strain on hospitals, funeral services, and local communities. Reports emerging from social media, funeral industry workers, and ordinary citizens point to a pattern that is increasingly difficult to ignore: rising mortality among the elderly, a noticeable increase in sudden deaths among younger people, and a widening gap between official narratives and lived reality. Across many cities, hospitals have been operating under prolonged overload. Community clinics are crowded, inpatient beds are scarce, and medical staff face.
Are you guys seeing this? I mean, come on. Like, are you seeing this? And people are acting like there's, let's just go on with our lives. No, like, look at the imagery you're seeing here.
Sustained pressure. At the same time, funeral homes in several provinces have once again become overwhelmed, with long queues of families waiting to handle burial and cremation arrangements. In some cities, traffic jams have formed outside funeral facilities, while elsewhere authorities have accelerated the
Do you hear that? Traffic jams outside of funeral facilities. That's how bad it is.
construction or expansion of funeral homes, an unusual move that signals sharply rising demand. One of the most striking features of the current situation is what funeral workers describe as waves of deaths. These
I mean, literally, everybody wearing masks right there. Everybody, okay?
waves appear in cycles, intensifying at specific times rather than remaining constant. In eastern China, deaths among elderly people surged sharply around the winter solstice. Most of those who passed away were between 70 and 90 years old, with cardiovascular and cerebrovascular diseases being the most common underlying conditions. However, funeral workers report that the disease often causes severe lung damage in elderly patients, dramatically reducing survival chances once complications set in.
And remember, it was St. Paul acute respiratory syndrome. Respiratory syndrome.
Public concern has grown not only because of deaths among the elderly, but also due to a clear rise in mortality among younger people. According to those working in the funeral industry, deaths linked to serious illness, such as cancer, severe pneumonia, heart attacks, and strokes, are occurring more frequently in people in their 30s and 40s.
It's just getting into regular medical information now, but what I want to say is that it wasn't long ago, all right? It wasn't long ago, and they actually like cut off all flights out of China. Like they basically like kept China quarantined, and that's on Decoding China as well. All right, so it's like people are stuck there in this now. So I feel like people need to be paying attention to what's going on. I don't, and now our federal employees are beginning to get these letters, these essential worker letters, essential services letters, and they've been plotting and planning, and they have plotted and planned in the past. And again, H3N2 is a form of bird flu, but it's like kind of distant. It's not. It started off as an avian flu and mutated. But it's a bird flu, and then they had the bird flu summit, and at the bird flu summit in 2024, in the fall of 2024, all right, specifically October 2nd and 3rd and 4th, all right, the topics included, and this is in the gray box here, mass fatality management planning. All right, so if you go over here to IBFS 2024. It says mass fatality management planning, develop and maintain plans, procedures, programs, and systems, develop and implement training and exercise programs, direct fatality management, tactical operations. What's tactical operations? Activate fatality management operations, conduct morgue operations. They're preparing for something big. They don't have these little events unless they plan on doing something. Yeah, and if you have information to put out that's, along these lines, you can email me, and right here is my email. If you're seeing stuff in your area, you can always share it with me, and I will keep your identity a secret. I promise you. I was live earlier, accidentally slipped up on a state. You know what I mean? It said a state on accident, and I deleted all the lives real quick and then went live because I'm all about protecting people's identities. I'll take the heat. I'm not scared of them. They don't shiver my timbers any. I mean, I expose child pedophile cults and satanic sex cults and satanic cults. I mean, what are they going to do to me? If there's a lockdown, I'll probably get splattered on the wall at some point. But hey, I don't care. I only live once. I want to live for Jesus. I want to warn God's people. I care about God's people, and I want to see people through to the finish line. And I want to prepare people mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically to be able to handle what's coming. And it's better to have a heads up. I mean, wouldn't you rather have a heads up of what's coming rather than not? I've been warning about this for quite some time. Everybody thought I was a crackpot. I guess I ain't a crackpot anymore, am I? And so, but again, I want to go through this. So again, topics included in the gray box here: mass fatality management planning, surveillance and data management. I mean, that's literally tyranny and a dystopian future. And it's interesting because that's what this is all about too. If you go through this scenario, and I mean, it is lengthy. This thing, I mean, how many pages is there? There's 76 or we'll say 66 pages. 66 pages, which is an interesting number, by the way. I'm sure there's another 6 in there somewhere. But 66 pages, okay? And it's all about how this begins, how it goes viral, and how they're going to control things once it happens. How they're going to control the internet, how they're going to control the narrative. And I'm telling you, I've been warning people for a long time, get off of YouTube. You are getting a watered down message the majority of the time on YouTube. Get over to X and Rumble or something along those lines, because once this kicks off, censorship is going to get nasty. And so you got to have to do something to prepare for that moment, because you got to have to be able to get information. You have to be able to get the information. Now, I don't know when this is actually going to finally take place. They could be warning their employees, and 2 months later it could happen. All right. So don't let your guard down just because it might take a little while for something to actually kick into play. I'll tell you from experience. I remember during the first pandemic when I was paying attention then, I had a buddy call me. It was my buddy Chris in Wyoming. I absolutely love Chris. One of my most favorite people on the face of this planet. That, I'd love to get him on this show more often. He's super smart, super educated. He's actually a doctor. You know what I mean? I hope he doesn't get mad at me for saying that, but he's actually a doctor, and he's so smart. And I just wish that I could get him on the show more often, but he's camera shy. But this dude called me up and he's like, I think this, COVID or coronavirus is going to be something. And I'm like, what's going on? And he's like, yeah, over in China and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay. And I start paying attention and I start looking at stuff and I start getting little trickles of information. And I'm like, wow, I think it is going to be something. I think it is. And then so at the time, I didn't even have End Times Talk. I had like a street ministry, but I was an artist at the time. I had like 40,000 people following my art, because I was like connected to some of the guys on King of the Hill and stuff like that, making like King of the Hill fan art, because I just love King of the Hill. That's why I have Dale Gribble behind me on my show, a cardboard cutout. Anyways, I started going to some Facebook groups locally, just in my state, and saying like, hey, heads up, warning, something is brewing. And then I had a buddy get a hold of me, and he was traveling home from work, and he met 2 Asian women that were on the side of the road from China, and their tire had blown out, and he's a mechanic, so he was fixing stuff, and he knows a little bit of Mandarin, and they knew obviously a little bit of English, and between the two, they were able to communicate that they were fleeing China because of what was happening in China. And I knew something was coming, and I was trying to warn people and warn people and warn people. And then every time I tried to warn people, people said, "Get out of here, you fear monger! Nothing's happening." And then it happened. And the same things that I saw back then, I'm seeing now, but almost worse. Almost worse, besides the videos of people like dropping dead and things like that were coming out of China. Like, the amount of numbers of people sick are astronomical compared to what was happening during the COVID-19 pandemic. And again, I can only speak as for Michigan, the numbers of Michigan, that's what I mainly pay attention to. But there was 89,000 in 2020 for influenza-like illnesses and confirmed influenza. All right, there weren't even that many COVID-19 cases. It was like 119 or something. Okay. But the reality is, right now, there's like 419,000 cases. It is literally almost 5 times basically 5 times the numbers of what it was during the first pandemic lockdown. That was in the beginning of the lockdown. Now, the reason that they chose to lock us down. And now we're way past that in numbers. We're way past that in deaths. We're way past that in pediatric deaths. And they still haven't called a lockdown, but now they're sending out federal letters, or the federal government sending out letters to federal employees saying, be ready. Be ready to present this letter to law enforcement officials when restrictions come down on your area. And again, this letter was sent out on January 5th, 2026. The lady that got a hold of me in email, it was 2 days later or 3 days later that her husband got his letter. So they're not all going out at the exact same time. All right. So I want to leave it at that. I think I've put a good case out there for what's going on. All right. I hope people are paying attention because I think it's really serious. I do. I think that this is something to pay attention to have your eyes on. All right. Don't have your head in the sand. Don't live in fear either. Okay. Because Jesus is in control. If you truly believe in Jesus, you'll put your faith in Jesus, that he will carry you through, even if there was another lockdown, that he will carry you through it and he will see you up to the end. If God will bring you to it, the Lord will bring you through it. All right. Always remember that and read Psalms 91. I literally call that the pandemic scripture, the pandemic promise. Okay. It really is. It really is. It talks about, protecting you through any plague or pestilence. And it talks about this many people dropping next to you dead on this side, and this many people dropping next to you dead on that side. But it will not come near you. You will only see what's happening to the wicked because of what they've done. And it talks about those who abide in God during this time will have this protection. If you abide in God, you know what? I'm just going to read it because I think it's best just to read it. We'll finish the live with the word of God. I think, again, I think reading it is important. Hold on 1 second. And then I'll put it up on the screen here so y'all can read along with me. Hold on. Share. Okay, again. All right, Psalms 91, King James Version. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, he is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in him will I trust. Surely he shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler and from the noisome pestilence. He shall cover thee with his feathers, and under his wings shalt thou trust. His truth shall be thy shield and buckler. Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day, nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness, nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday. 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come near you. It shall not come nigh thee. Only with thine eyes shalt thou behold and see the reward of the wicked, because thou hast made the Lord, which is my refuge, even the Most High, thy habitation. All right, so those that dwell in his presence, those that make him their habitation, these are your promises for what's coming. There shall no evil befall thee, neither shall any plague come nigh thy dwelling, if you make Christ your habitation. Don't live in fear, make Christ your habitation. For he shall give his angels charge over thee to keep thee in all thy ways, that they shall bear thee up in their hands, lest thou dash thy foot against a stone. Thou shalt tread upon the lion and the adder, the young lion and the dragon shalt thou trample under your feet, because he hath set his love upon you. Therefore will he deliver you and will set you on high, because you have known his name. You shall call upon him, and he will answer you, and he will be with you in trouble, and he will deliver you and honor you. With long life will he satisfy you and show you his salvation, is what this scripture is reading. All right. And so also, you have to understand in Matthew 24, it talks about the signs of the end times. It says there will be wars and rumors of wars. That's, and remember, there's these 10 kingdoms forming we've been talking about. All right, there's wars and rumors of wars, nation rising against nation, kingdom against kingdom, famine and pestilences. This is a pestilence, and earthquakes in diverse places. All right, And in latter gospels, it says, when you see all these things, look up, for your redemption draweth nigh. All right, we're getting really close to the final shebang here. All right, and so I want people to have their focus on Jesus, but don't have your head in the sand. All right, don't get in line with these people that could care less about what's going on. God's people perish for lack of knowledge. All right, I want you to be informed, I want you to be prepared, and I want you to focus on Jesus. May God bless you all. May he keep you in this time frame, and please don't forget to go out and change this world in which you live.